Hello, welcome to Armchair Sports Talk. Today we're talking about the NFC North. This is a 10-minute topic where we'll talk about each team in the NFC North. We're going to look at projected win totals and identify at least one fantasy player worth watching this season. So let's get to it. If we start at the bottom of the AFC North, we got to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. Their projected win total is 6. I think they're going to go comfortably under that with the AJ Green injury. So that total probably is even moved because this came out just before that AJ Green news has been updated where he may miss the first half of the season. So the first half of the season, the Bengals may find themselves looking to just get ready for the offseason, rebuild, sign some of the free agents and players that are going to make this team a playoff contender again. So I think that under 6 wins is looking pretty easy at this point. The Bengals' struggles start at the offensive line now. They continue on to the wide receiver position, and the up and down play of Andy Dalton isn't really meant to handle these additional challenges. So I do think that with the amount of struggling this team could be doing, the Bengals could find themselves looking at what young players they have. And one of the players that catches my attention is Auden Tate. He's a 6'5" wide receiver. He's only 22 years old. Without AJ Green, who's 6'3" himself and extremely athletic, I think the Bengals are going to want to see what some of their younger talent can do. So just the physical dimensions of Auden Tate make him interesting, and his age, of course. So I think he's going to find himself out there probably before the midway point, and with losing games and playing from behind, he should get a fair amount of opportunities. And if he's able to catch some of those passes, I think that he could be catching them from Andy Dalton or his backup. But Auden Tate's the wide receiver or the player on the team I'd like to keep an eye on. I do like Joe Mixon, but if you're playing from behind and the running backs running behind a bad offensive line, I just think that means you target the defenses that are going to be playing the Bengals throughout the year. So unfortunately, they're looking for a rebuilding year, and I would say they're probably going to get around 4 wins maybe. We go on to the next team, the Ravens. They are projected at 8.5 wins, and I think that's a pretty good number. I think they're right there at 8-8, 9-7. You can kind of take your pick, but I would lean towards the under at 8-8. Lamar Jackson, I think, has some more developing to do. They lost John Brown. They lost Michael Crabtree. They're bringing in some young talent at wide receiver, and young talent sometimes need some time to develop. So I think they take a little bit of a step back. They're losing some of their names you're familiar with on the defensive side, C.J. Mosley and Terrell Suggs. But they did bring in Earl Thomas from Seattle. Flicking off the coach is a pretty good way to make sure you don't come back to the same team, so he's not a Seahawk any longer. But Earl Thomas will be manning the defense there at safety. And if we're going to go to a player to watch, I would look at the newly acquired Mark Ingram. I think that he gives a little bit more consistency to the running back position. He can run between the tackles. He's a very north-south runner. He's got a little bit of shiftiness, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think that makes him a nice complement to Lamar Jackson. And there should be enough carries to go around between Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and then Gus Edwards. But we know Gus Edwards does not catch the ball out of the backfield. So with that missing dynamic, Mark Ingram should be able to capitalize in probably a 65%, 35% timeshare, I'd imagine. So that should be enough in a run-first offense for Mark Ingram to be relevant. The only downside is if they're closer to 7-9 or find themselves not really wanting to contend for a playoff position towards the end, we could see Mark Ingram and some of the veterans shelved to see what their younger talent can do. So just keep an eye on that. But for bulk of the season, they should be in contention. So keep an eye on Mark Ingram. I think he can be an okay fantasy play on the Ravens. Let's go to the Steelers. They're projected for 9 wins. I think that's a good number as well, but a little low. So I think they can easily get to 10. They're going to be a playoff contender. And I don't think it's addition by subtraction, but I think they got a lot of pieces that can shine now. Antonio Brown has departed, so Juju Smith-Schuster will be commanding most of the targets, which makes him a very interesting play. But let's go a little deeper here and see if we can get somebody who's not going to be as obvious. I like Vance McDonald. Vance McDonald did pretty good last year, and he was in a timeshare with Jesse James, and Jesse James is no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler. So Vance McDonald's free to roam out there and collect some of those targets that were going Antonio Brown's way. And I really like Vance McDonald to be just outside the top 5 at tight end, maybe right there, 5 to 7 range, I'd say. So if Vance McDonald is available in your draft and you waited on tight end, I think you'll be in a very good spot for fantasy purposes. So just someone to keep an eye on as we continue to move forward with the Steelers. So if you do like betting these win totals, I think the over on the Steelers is pretty good. And if I have them second to the top, that means we'll go to our top team, which is the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns also projected at 9 wins. I'll go over that. They have a little problem with overcoming just being the Browns, and I don't know how to quantify that really, but they have a new coaching staff that seems competent. They have a lot of talent. They did really good last year when Baker Mayfield came on. So they just got to get past the being the Browns part, and they should find themselves at the top of the division, because if that talent's able to hold out, not hold out like the Cowboys or anything, but, just stay healthy, go out there and produce. The Browns should be able to probably get to maybe 11-5 even if they get the consistent play out of Baker Mayfield he showed at the end of the year. Their defense is kind of going under the radar. They have one of the better cornerbacks, and they also have a really good defensive rush presence in Myles Garrett. So they have some good players on both sides of the ball, and I think the Browns really do find themselves in an optimal spot to make the playoffs and possibly win the division. They just got to get past the stigma of being the Browns. So hopefully they're able to do that and kind of make history for a lot of people in Cleveland who've been loyal to the team. So that's really nice. And that goes to our fantasy player to watch. The running back Nick Chubb is going to have the backfield to himself for quite a while. So my prediction is, with them getting rid of Duke Johnson, their pass catching specialist, and Kareem Hunt being out, I believe like for 6 games, 10 games, whatever the number of games are, Nick Chubb is going to be able to command presence in the backfield. And with them being favored in more games than not, with their 9-game projected win total, I think he's going to get all the work he can handle, both catching and rushing. So Nick Chubb is going to be my obvious choice. He should be a top 10, maybe top 15 back, just depending on what they do when Kareem Hunt comes back. But while he's starting and has the backfield to himself, go ahead and draft him in your fantasy roster. Look at him in daily fantasy, especially in week 1. It is a good matchup there, in my opinion. I don't think the Titans are anything to worry about. But Nick Chubb, I'm really high on him. So that does it for our wrap-up of the AFC North. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up with the Bengals right around 4 wins, the Ravens right around 8 wins, the Steelers probably around 10-6, and then the Browns probably squeaking out the division at 11-5. And our players to watch are Auden Tate, wide receiver for the Bengals, 22-year-old, 6'5", just a young talent that they'll probably want to see. The Ravens, nothing special. Mark Ingram, just going to go out there and give you some decent consistency in the mid-rounds if you do a snake draft. And the Steelers, we got Vance McDonald, a lot of upside. I really do think he can be a top 5 tight end. And then for the Browns, we're going to get the running backs, consistent performance of Nick Chubb in what should be mostly favored games with them playing with the lead. So that does it with our wrap-up of the AFC North. And stay tuned for more content from Armchair Sports. Thank you.